The rain hammered my truck's windshield like bullets from heaven, each drop exploding into 1,000 smaller pieces before the wipers swept them away. I was elbow-deep in the engine compartment, wrestling with a stubborn alternator bolt, when my phone buzzed against my hip. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. The text was from Amy, my wife Kate's younger sister. The same Amy who'd been living in our guest room for 3 months, supposedly getting back on her feet after her latest boyfriend kicked her out. I maxed out your credit card in Miami. You make enough. I stared at the screen, rain dripping from my hair onto the cracked phone case. The smiley face emoji felt like a slap across my wet cheek. My hands, already grimy from engine grease, started shaking, not from the cold October air, but from something much deeper. "You've got to be kidding me," I muttered, scrolling up to see her previous messages. Photos from South Beach, designer cocktails at rooftop bars, shopping bags from stores I couldn't even pronounce. All time-stamped over the last 4 days. I always wanted to see Miami, but not from the wrong end of a credit limit. My phone rang. Kate. "John, where are you? Dinner's getting cold." "I'm in the driveway trying to fix the truck so I can get to work tomorrow and pay for your sister's vacation." The words came out sharper than I intended. "What are you talking about?" "Check your phone, Kate. Your sister just sent me a love letter from paradise." The line went quiet, except for the sound of her heels clicking across our hardwood floors. Then I heard her sharp intake of breath. "Oh God, John, I'm so sorry. I had no idea she took your card." "She didn't take it, Kate. You gave it to her, remember? Just for emergencies, you said." "A girl's trip to Miami isn't exactly an emergency," Kate said, but her voice had that lawyer tone, the one she used when she was already building her defense. I slammed the truck's hood shut, the metallic bang echoing through our quiet suburban neighborhood. Mrs. Peterson's curtains twitched in the window across the street. Perfect. The whole block would know about this by morning. $14,847, Kate. That's what your sister thinks I make enough to cover." "How do you know the exact amount?" "Because, unlike some people in this family, I check my accounts regularly." I trudged toward the house, my work boots squelching in the muddy driveway. The place looked picture-perfect from the outside. White picket fence, manicured lawn, the American dream in vinyl siding. But inside, things had been rotting for months. Kate met me at the door, still in her sharp business suit. Even after a 12-hour day at the law firm, she looked like she'd stepped out of a magazine. Her blonde hair was pulled back in that severe bun that made her look older than 32, more intimidating. It was a look that served her well in court, but made me feel like a defendant in my own home. "We'll figure this out," she said, reaching for my arm. I pulled away. "Will we? Because lately, it feels like you and Amy figure things out together, and I just get the bill. That's not fair." "Fair?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You want to talk about fair? I've been working 60-hour weeks, while your sister treats our home like a resort and our money like her personal allowance. Meanwhile, you're working late every night with that boss of yours." Kate's face flushed. "His name is Philip, and he's a senior partner. Working with him is an opportunity." "Is that what we're calling it?" The question hung in the air like smoke from a house fire. Kate's green eyes flashed with something, anger, guilt, maybe both. "What exactly are you implying, John?" "I'm not implying anything. I'm stating facts. You're never home, Amy's bleeding us dry, and I'm the idiot working himself to death to keep this whole charade going." Kate's phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. She glanced at it, and I saw her shoulders tense. "Expecting someone?" I asked. "It's just work." But I was already moving toward the counter. Kate lunged for the phone, but I was faster. Years of boxing at Murphy's gym had kept me quick, even if everything else in my life was falling apart. The message was from someone labeled Boss Man, with a fire emoji next to the name. Can't wait to finish what we started earlier. Same hotel tomorrow. The phone slipped from my fingers, clattering onto the tile floor. Kate's face had gone white, her carefully applied makeup suddenly looking like war paint. John, I can explain. Can you? Because this looks pretty self-explanatory to me. I picked up the phone and scrolled through more messages, weeks of them, months, plans for late-night meetings, intimate details that made my stomach turn. And the worst part, the casual way they talked about me. Does your husband suspect anything? John? He's too busy with his little blue-collar projects to notice. Poor guy. Maybe we should put him out of his misery. LOL, he's harmless, just a mechanic who thinks he's an engineer. I set the phone down carefully on the counter, my hands surprisingly steady now. The shaking had stopped, replaced by something cold and calculating. How long? I asked. John. How long, Kate? She wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly looking smaller in her power suit. 6 months. 6 months. Half a year of lies, of coming home to kiss a woman who'd been with another man hours earlier. Half a year of working overtime to support a household that was already broken. And Amy knows, doesn't she? That's why she felt so comfortable maxing out my credit card. She figured you'd cover for her, and I'd be too stupid to connect the dots. Kate didn't answer, but her silence was confirmation enough. I walked to the kitchen window and looked out at my truck, still sitting in the driveway with its hood down, the rain washing away the afternoon's work. In the reflection, I could see Kate behind me crying now, her mascara running in dark streams down her cheeks. I want her out, I said quietly. John, please. Amy, I want her out of this house by tomorrow night. She has nowhere to go. I turned around and Kate took a step back. Maybe she saw something in my face that she'd never seen before. Maybe she finally realized that the harmless mechanic had teeth. She has $14,000 of my money. She'll figure it out. And us? Kate whispered. I looked at this woman I'd married 8 years ago, this stranger who'd been sharing my bed while sharing herself with someone else. The worst part wasn't the betrayal. It was the casual cruelty of their messages, the way they'd laughed about my ignorance. There is no us, Kate. There hasn't been for 6 months. I was just too stupid to realize it. I grabbed my keys from the hook by the door. Where are you going? Out. Don't wait up. Actually, don't wait up ever again. The rain had intensified by the time I reached my truck, turning the evening into a gray blur. But as I sat in the driver's seat, engine running, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Clarity. They thought I was harmless. They thought I was just some blue-collar fool who'd roll over and take whatever they dished out. Amy was probably posting more pictures from Miami right now, laughing with her friends about her stupid brother-in-law who'd pay for her vacation. Kate was probably texting her boss, planning their next rendezvous, but they'd made one crucial mistake. They'd underestimated the mechanic who thought he was an engineer. And engineers, well, we know how to build things. We also know how to tear them down. I spent the night at Murphy's gym, sleeping on the couch in Bob Murphy's office. Bob had been my trainer for 15 years, ever since I'd walked into his gym as an angry 18-year-old looking for something to hit. He'd taught me discipline, control, how to channel rage into precision. Those lessons were about to come in handy. You look like hell, Bob said, handing me a cup of coffee that could strip paint. He was 63, built like a fire hydrant, with hands that had seen more fights than most people see movies. Feel worse. I took a sip and winced. Bob, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be straight with me. Always am. If someone screws you over, really screws you over, what's the difference between justice and revenge? Bob settled into his creaky desk chair, studying my face with those sharp gray eyes that had seen everything the world could throw at a man. Justice is what happens in court. Revenge is what happens when court isn't enough. He paused. But revenge is a funny thing, Johnny. It's like boxing. You throw a punch, you better be ready for what comes back. What if what comes back can't be worse than what's already happened? Then you're not thinking hard enough. My phone buzzed. 3 missed calls from Kate, 2 from Amy. I ignored them both. I need to use your computer, I said. Help yourself. The first thing I did was log into my credit card account. Amy hadn't been kidding about maxing it out. The charges read like a rich girl's fantasy. The Fontainebleau Miami Beach, Joe's Stone Crab, Versace, Gucci, a spa package that cost more than most people's monthly rent. But Amy had made a mistake. She'd posted everything on social media, geotagged and time-stamped. Every champagne toast, every designer purchase, every moment of her 4-day spending spree was documented for the world to see. I started taking screenshots. Next, I called the credit card company. I need to report fraudulent charges, I told the customer service representative. I'm sorry to hear that, Mr. Mitchell. Can you tell me which charges you're disputing? All of them from the last 4 days. Someone stole my card and went to Miami. It wasn't technically true, but it wasn't technically false either. Amy had taken the card without asking me directly, and I certainly hadn't authorized $14,000 in charges. I'll need to file a police report, the representative said. Already planning on it. By the time I finished the call, Amy's access to my account was frozen, and a fraud investigation was underway. The credit card company would be contacting Miami Beach police within 24 hours. My phone rang. Kate. John, thank God. Amy's card got declined at the airport. She's stranded. Funny how that works. What did you do? What I should have done months ago. I protected my assets. She's family. No, Kate, she's your family. And apparently, so is your boss. I could hear Kate's sharp intake of breath. We need to talk. We really don't. John, please come home. We can work this out. Can we? Because I've been thinking about that all night. See, the thing is, I don't actually want to work this out. I want to watch it burn. I hung up and turned back to the computer. Time for phase 2. Kate's law firm had a website with staff photos and bios. There was Philip Pumper Morrison, senior partner, looking smug in his $1,000 suit. Harvard Law, the bio said. Divorced twice. Specialized in corporate litigation. I found his social media profiles easily enough. The man had no sense of privacy settings. Photos of his BMW, his downtown loft, his weekend trips to wine country. And there, buried in the comments of a post from 3 weeks ago, was a familiar face. Kate, commenting with heart eye emojis on a photo of Pumper's new art acquisition. I took more screenshots. My phone buzzed with a text from Amy. What the hell did you do? I'm stuck at the airport with no money. I typed back, welcome to the real world, population, everyone but you. Her response was immediate. Kate's going to hear about this. Kate already knows. She's got bigger problems. 20 minutes later, my phone rang. Unknown Miami number. Is this John Mitchell? The voice was young, female, with a slight southern accent. Depends who's asking. This is Detective Sarah Chen with Miami Beach Police. I understand you've reported credit card fraud? That's right. I'm looking at some social media posts from an Amy Morrison. She claims these charges were authorized by you for a family trip. Amy Morrison. She'd used Kate's married name on the police report, trying to establish legitimacy. Detective, Amy Morrison is my sister-in-law. She took my credit card without permission and spent nearly $15,000 in 4 days. I have text messages where she admits to maxing out my card and tells me I make enough to cover it. Can you send me those messages? Already on their way. I forwarded the screenshots to the email address she provided, then added the social media posts showing Amy's spending spree. Mr. Mitchell, this looks pretty clear-cut. We'll need Ms. Morrison to come in for questioning. She's at the airport now, trying to get home. Not anymore. She's not. After I hung up, I sat back in Bob's squeaky chair and allowed myself a small smile. Amy was about to learn that actions have consequences, but she was just the appetizer. The main course was still at home, probably pacing around our kitchen in her designer heels, trying to figure out how to spin this situation to her advantage. My phone buzzed with another text from Kate. Amy's been arrested. Are you happy now? I typed back, getting there. But I wasn't. Not yet. Because while Amy was learning about accountability in a Miami police station, Kate was still walking around thinking she could manage this situation like one of her legal cases. She was about to discover that some things can't be negotiated. I spent the rest of the morning at the gym, working the heavy bag until my knuckles bled through the tape. Each punch was a thought, a memory, a moment of clarity. The bag didn't judge. It didn't lie. It didn't cheat or steal or laugh about my ignorance with someone else. It just took what I gave it and asked for more. Feeling better? Bob asked when I finally stopped. Feeling focused. That's what worries me. I unwrapped my hands, looking at the blood seeping through the white tape. Bob, you ever been married? 3 times. Any of them cheat? 2 out of 3. What did you do? Bob was quiet for a long moment, staring at the old fight posters covering his office walls. Champions from decades past, men who'd learned to turn pain into power. First time I forgave her. Second time I divorced her. Third time I made sure she regretted it. Which one worked? All of them, in different ways, but only one of them made me feel like a man again. I nodded, understanding perfectly. Just remember, Johnny, once you cross certain lines, you can't uncross them. Maybe I don't want to. That afternoon, I drove home for the first time since the night before. Kate's car was in the driveway, along with a black BMW I didn't recognize. I parked on the street and sat for a moment, watching the house I'd spent 8 years calling home. The mortgage was in my name. The utilities were in my name. Hell, even the landscaping had been paid for with my overtime money. But inside that house was a woman who'd been laughing about me with another man for 6 months. Time to change the dynamic. I walked up the front steps and used my key, opening the door like I owned the place. Because I did. The voices from the kitchen stopped the moment I walked through the front door. I could hear urgent whispering, the kind of hushed conversation that happens when people are trying to get their stories straight. I took my time hanging up my jacket, making enough noise to announce my presence. Let them sweat for a minute. When I finally walked into the kitchen, Kate was sitting at our breakfast table across from a man I recognized from his law firm photos. Philip Pumper Morrison looked exactly like what Central Casting would order for arrogant lawyer. Silver hair, expensive suit, the kind of watch that costs more than most people's cars. John, Kate said, standing quickly. This is Philip Morrison, my colleague from the firm. I know who he is. I looked directly at Pumper, who had the decency to look uncomfortable. I've been reading your text messages. Pumper cleared his throat. John, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Have there been? Because the messages seemed pretty clear to me, especially the ones where you two were laughing about what an idiot I am. Kate's face went white. John, please. Please what? Please pretend I didn't see months of evidence that my wife has been screwing her boss? Please act like I don't know you've been using our house, our bed, our life as your personal joke? Pumper stood up, straightening his tie. He was taller than I'd expected, maybe 6'2", with the kind of soft build that comes from expensive gym memberships and personal trainers. Look, Mitchell, this is obviously a difficult situation. It's about to get more difficult. Something in my voice made him take a step back. Good. Let him wonder what 8 years of boxing had taught me about handling difficult situations. John, Kate said, moving between us, can we please discuss this like adults? Adults? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Adults don't sneak around behind their spouse's back for 6 months. Adults don't let their sister-in-law steal $14,000 while they're busy planning their next hotel room rendezvous. Amy's situation has everything to do with this. You gave her my credit card because you felt guilty about cheating on me. You figured if you let her spend my money, it would somehow balance out the fact that you were spending yourself on him. I pointed at Pumper, who was now checking his phone, probably looking for an excuse to leave. That's not, Kate started. It's exactly what happened. And you know what the funny part is? I might have been able to forgive the cheating. People make mistakes. But the way you two talked about me, like I was some kind of trained seal who'd just keep clapping while you threw me fish, that's unforgivable. Pumper finally found his voice. John, I understand you're upset. Upset? I stepped closer to him, close enough to smell his expensive cologne. Upset is what you feel when your team loses. This is something else entirely. Are you threatening me? I'm educating you. See, you made a mistake, Pumper. You thought I was just some blue-collar guy who'd roll over and take whatever you dished out. But here's the thing about blue-collar guys. We know how to work. And right now, you've become my full-time job. Kate grabbed my arm. John, stop. You're scaring me. Good. You should be scared. Because for 6 months, you two have been playing games with my life, and now it's my turn to play. I pulled out my phone and showed them the screen. Amy's mugshot was already online, courtesy of the Miami Beach Police Department's public booking records. Your sister's been charged with credit card fraud. She's looking at up to 5 years in prison. Kate's legs gave out, and she sat down hard in her chair. You can't be serious. Dead serious. Turns out when you steal someone's credit card and spend $15,000, the police call it a felony. She's family. She was family. Now she's a defendant. Pumper was backing toward the door. I think I should go. You should definitely go. But first, let me ask you something. How long did you think this was going to last? Did you really think you could keep screwing my wife indefinitely without consequences? John, I never meant for anyone to get hurt. But you did hurt someone. You hurt me, and now I'm going to hurt you back. What do you want? His voice was smaller now, less confident. I want you to understand something. This isn't over. This is just getting started. After Pumper left, practically running to his BMW, Kate and I sat in our kitchen in silence. The same kitchen where we'd had breakfast that morning 6 months ago, before her affair started, before Amy moved in, before everything went to hell. What happens now? Kate asked quietly. Now you call a lawyer, but not one from your firm. I don't think they're going to be very happy with you once this gets out. You're going to tell people? I looked at this woman I'd once loved, this stranger who'd been sharing my bed while sharing herself with someone else, and felt something cold settle in my chest. Kate, I'm not going to tell people. I'm going to tell everyone. John, please. My career. Your career? What about my marriage? What about my trust? What about the 8 years I spent building a life with someone who was laughing about me behind my back? She started crying then, real tears this time, not the calculated tears she used in court. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't fix this. What would fix it? I stood up and walked to the kitchen window, looking out at the neighborhood I'd called home for 8 years. Mrs. Peterson was still peeking through her curtains. By tomorrow, she'd have quite a story to tell. Nothing fixes this, Kate. Some things, once they're broken, stay broken. So what happens to us? I turned back to look at her, this woman who'd destroyed our marriage for 6 months of hotel room encounters with her boss. There is no us. There hasn't been for 6 months. I was just the last one to know. That night, I stayed at the gym again. But this time, I wasn't sleeping. I was planning. Because Pumper was wrong about one thing. This wasn't a difficult situation. It was war. Bob found me at 5 a.m., hunched over his computer with a cup of coffee that had gone cold hours ago. I'd been working all night, and it showed. "Please tell me you're not doing anything stupid," he said. "Define stupid." "Anything that gets you arrested." "Then no, I'm not doing anything stupid. I'm doing something brilliant." I turned the monitor so he could see what I'd been working on. Social media profiles, public records, cross-referenced connections between Kate, Pumper, Amy, and their entire social network. Jesus, Johnny. You look like a stalker. I look like someone who's done his homework. The truth was, I'd discovered something interesting during my all-night research session. Kate and Pumper weren't as careful as they thought they were. Their affair had left digital breadcrumbs everywhere. Restaurant check-ins at the same locations, hotel loyalty program points earned on the same nights, even LinkedIn endorsements that lined up with their text message timestamps. But more importantly, I'd found their weak spots. "Look at this," I said, pulling up Pumper's social media profile. "He posts everything: his car, his apartment, his weekend trips, even his schedule." So he's got a deposition today at 10 a.m. in the Riverside Courthouse. Public record. Bob sat down heavily in his spare chair. "What are you planning?" "Nothing illegal, nothing violent, just a little public education." My phone buzzed. Kate, of course. "Amy made bail. She's flying home today." I typed back, "Good for her. Hope she enjoyed Miami." "John, we need to talk about this like rational adults. We tried that yesterday. You brought your boyfriend to the meeting." "Philip isn't my boyfriend." "You're right. Boyfriends are for single people." I put the phone away and turned back to the computer. Time to execute phase 2 of my plan. The first thing I did was create a simple website. Nothing fancy, just a basic page with a timeline of Kate and Pumper's affair, complete with screenshots of their text messages, photos of them together at various locations, and a detailed breakdown of how much money Amy had stolen while Kate was distracted by her extracurricular activities. I called it The Real Story and made sure it was optimized for search engines. Anyone who Googled Kate's name or Pumper's name would find it within the first few results. Next, I started making phone calls. "Mrs. Peterson, this is John Mitchell from across the street. I wanted to let you know that Kate and I are getting divorced. Yes, it's very sad. Well, since you asked, she's been having an affair with her boss for 6 months. No, I'm not bitter. Just thought the neighborhood should know." Mrs. Peterson was the neighborhood's unofficial communications director. By noon, everyone within a 6-block radius would know the story. But I wasn't done. I called Kate's parents. "Hi, Mr. Brennan. It's John. Yes, everything's fine. Well, actually, that's not entirely true. I thought you should know that Kate's been having an affair. Yes, with her boss." "No, sir. I'm not making this up." "Amy?" "Oh, she's been arrested for credit card fraud." "Yes, in Miami." Kate's father was a retired police officer who'd never particularly liked me but had always respected what he thought was my devotion to his daughter. The conversation was awkward, painful, and absolutely necessary. Next, I called Kate's law school friends, her college roommates, and her professional contacts. I was polite, factual, and devastatingly thorough. By 10 a.m., I was parked outside the Riverside Courthouse with a sign that read, "Ask Philip Morrison about his affair with Kate Mitchell." I didn't have to wait long. Pumper arrived in his black BMW at exactly 9:45, just like his social media posts had indicated he would. He was with 2 other lawyers from his firm, probably preparing for the deposition. When he saw me standing on the courthouse steps with my sign, his face went white. "Mitchell, what the hell are you doing?" "Exercising my First Amendment rights." "You can't do this." "Actually, I can. Public property, public figure, matters of public interest." One of the other lawyers, a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes, looked between Pumper and my sign. "Philip, what is this about?" "It's nothing, Margaret. Just a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding?" I said loudly enough for several other people to hear. Is that what you call a 6-month affair with a married woman? Margaret's eyes widened. Philip? I can explain. Can you? Because I'd love to hear how you explain using firm resources to conduct a personal relationship with a subordinate attorney. That got Margaret's attention. Law firms take sexual harassment policies very seriously, especially when senior partners are involved. John, Pumper said, his voice tight with barely controlled anger. You need to stop this right now. Or what? You'll sue me? Good luck proving defamation when everything I'm saying is true. I held up my phone, showing him the website I'd created. By the way, your affair is now the #1 search result for your name. Congratulations on going viral. Pumper lunged for my phone, but I was ready for him. 8 years of boxing had taught me to read body language, and his telegraphed that move from a mile away. I stepped aside, and he stumbled past me, nearly falling down the courthouse steps. Careful there, counselor. Wouldn't want to add assault to your list of professional problems. Margaret was already on her phone, probably calling the senior partners at their firm. This was exactly what I'd been hoping for. Philip, she said, hanging up. We need to talk. Now. As they walked away, I heard her say, the managing partner wants to see you immediately. And Philip, bring your resignation letter. I folded up my sign and walked back to my truck, feeling something I hadn't experienced in months. Satisfaction. But I wasn't done. Not even close. My phone rang. Kate. What did you do? What needed to be done? Philip just got fired. Good. Maybe now he'll have time to work on his personal life. John, this has gone too far. Has it? Because from where I'm sitting, this is just getting started. What do you want from me? It was a good question. What did I want? An apology, an explanation, a time machine to go back 6 months and prevent this from happening. I want you to understand what it feels like to have your life destroyed by someone you trusted. I understand. No, you don't. But you will. That afternoon, I drove to Kate's law firm. The receptionist, a young woman named Jessica, who'd always been friendly when I'd visited, looked uncomfortable when she saw me. Hi, Mr. Mitchell. Kate's not in today. I'm not here to see Kate. I'm here to see the managing partner. Do you have an appointment? Tell him it's about Philip Morrison and the sexual harassment lawsuit he's about to face. Jessica's eyes widened. I'll see if he's available. 20 minutes later, I was sitting in a conference room with 3 senior partners, explaining how Pumper had used his position of authority to conduct an affair with a subordinate attorney, how he'd used firm resources for personal purposes, and how the entire situation had created a hostile work environment that could expose the firm to significant liability. I didn't mention that the subordinate attorney was my wife. I didn't have to. They figured that out on their own. Mr. Mitchell, said the managing partner, a stern woman in her 60s, we appreciate you bringing this to our attention. Rest assured, we take these matters very seriously. I'm sure you do. I'm also sure you'll want to conduct a thorough investigation into any other inappropriate relationships within the firm. They assured me they would. By 5 p.m., Kate was unemployed. She called me, crying. They fired me, John. They fired me because of what you did. They fired you because of what you did. I just made sure they knew about it. How am I supposed to pay my bills? How am I supposed to live? I don't know, Kate, but I'm sure you'll figure it out. After all, you're a smart woman. Smart enough to conduct a 6-month affair without getting caught. I can't believe you're doing this to me. I'm not doing this to you. I'm doing this because of you. There's a difference. That night, I went home for the first time in 3 days. Kate's car wasn't in the driveway. Most of her clothes were gone from our bedroom. She'd left a note on the kitchen table. I'm staying with my parents until we can work this out. I love you, John. I made a mistake, but we can fix this. I crumpled up the note and threw it in the trash. Some things, once broken, stay broken. But some things, once started, need to be finished. Amy came home from Miami 3 days later, and she was not happy. I was in the garage, working on my truck's transmission, when she stormed through the side door like a hurricane in designer clothes that were now evidence in a criminal case. "You son of a bitch," she said, her voice shaking with rage. "Do you have any idea what you've done to me?" I didn't look up from the engine compartment. "I have a pretty good idea. How was county lockup?" "This isn't funny, John. I was arrested, fingerprinted, photographed. They treated me like a common criminal." "That's because you are a common criminal." She slammed her purse down on my workbench, scattering tools. "I'm family." "No, you're not. You're Kate's sister, and Kate doesn't live here anymore." "Where is she?" "At her parents' house, probably looking for a new job. Turns out law firms don't like it when their attorneys sleep with senior partners." Amy's face went pale. "What are you talking about?" I finally looked up from the truck, wiping my hands on an old rag. Amy looked different than she had before her Miami vacation. The entitled confidence was gone, replaced by something desperate and frightened. "Your sister's been having an affair for 6 months. I found out the same day you decided to max out my credit card. Funny how these things work out." "You're lying." "Am I? Then why isn't she here defending you?" Amy pulled out her phone and started dialing. I could hear Kate's voice when she answered, tired and defeated. "Amy, thank God you're home. Are you okay?" "Kate, John says you've been having an affair. Tell me he's lying." The long silence that followed was answer enough. "Oh my God, Kate, what have you done?" "It's complicated." "It's not complicated. You cheated on your husband, and now he's destroying both of us." I went back to working on the truck while Amy screamed at her sister. The conversation went on for 20 minutes, getting more heated with each exchange. Finally, Amy hung up and turned back to me. "She says you got her fired." "She got herself fired. I just made sure her boss's boss knew about it." "You vindictive bastard." "Probably. But I'm a vindictive bastard who's been paying your bills for 3 months while you treated my home like your personal resort." Amy started pacing around the garage, her heels clicking on the concrete floor. "I need money for a lawyer." "Then get a job." "I can't get a job with a criminal record." "Should have thought of that before you stole my credit card." "I didn't steal it, Kate gave it to me." "Kate gave you permission to use it for emergencies. A 4-day shopping spree in Miami doesn't qualify." Amy stopped pacing and looked at me with something approaching desperation. "What do you want? What will it take for you to drop the charges?" It was a good question. What did I want from Amy? She was just collateral damage in a war between Kate and me. But she'd also been the catalyst that started everything. "I want you to understand something, Amy. For 3 months, you've been living in my house, eating my food, using my utilities, and spending my money. And the whole time, you've been treating me like I was some kind of servant whose only purpose was to make your life comfortable. That's not... It's exactly what happened. You never once said thank you. You never once offered to help with bills or housework or anything else. You just took and took and took, and when I finally had enough, you called me vindictive." Amy's eyes filled with tears, but I wasn't done. "You know what the worst part is? I might have been able to forgive all of that if you'd just shown a little gratitude. But instead, you treated me like I was stupid, like I was some kind of ATM that would just keep dispensing money forever. I'm sorry." "No, you're not. You're scared. There's a difference." I closed the truck's hood and started putting away my tools. "Here's what's going to happen, Amy. You're going to pack up your stuff and get out of my house. You're going to find somewhere else to live, get a job, and start acting like an adult, and you're going to stay the hell out of my life." "And the charges?" "The charges stand. You committed a crime, and you're going to face the consequences." "But I'm family." I stopped what I was doing and looked at her directly. Family doesn't steal from family. Family doesn't treat family like servants. And family sure as hell doesn't laugh about family behind their backs. I never laughed. Maybe not, but you never defended me either. When Kate was talking about what an idiot I was, when she was making jokes about her harmless husband, you just went along with it. Because it was easier than standing up for what was right. Amy started crying then. Real tears this time. But I was past the point where tears could fix anything. I want you out of my house by tomorrow. I have nowhere to go. Then you better start making phone calls. The next morning, Amy was gone. She'd left a note similar to Kate's, full of apologies and promises to make things right. I threw it in the trash with the other one, but Amy's departure was just the beginning of the collateral damage. My phone had been ringing all week with calls from mutual friends, Kate's family, and people who'd heard various versions of the story. Everyone wanted to know my side, wanted to understand what had really happened. I told them, all of them, in detail. The response was exactly what I'd expected. Kate's friends, the ones who'd been couple friends with both of us, started choosing sides. Most of them chose mine. Her family was different. Her parents blamed me for airing dirty laundry in public and destroying their daughter's career. Her siblings were split. Her brother understood why I was angry, but her sister thought I was being cruel. I didn't care what they thought. I cared about what they knew. Because knowledge, I'd discovered, was the most powerful weapon in my arsenal. Take Margaret, for instance, the lawyer who'd been with Pumper at the courthouse. She'd called me 2 days after the incident. Mr. Mitchell, this is Margaret Collins from Morrison, Bradley & Associates. I wanted to thank you for bringing Philip's behavior to our attention. You're welcome. I also wanted to let you know that we've discovered several other inappropriate relationships he was involved in. Your situation wasn't isolated. That was interesting. Other married women? I can't discuss specifics, but let's just say that Philip had a pattern of behavior that the firm should have addressed long ago. What happens now? Now he faces the consequences of his actions. And Mr. Mitchell, if you're considering legal action against the firm for creating a hostile environment, I'd encourage you to speak with an attorney. I hadn't been considering legal action, but I was now. By the end of the week, I'd retained a lawyer who specialized in sexual harassment cases. Not because I needed the money, but because I wanted Pumper and his former firm to understand that actions have consequences. The lawsuit would take months to resolve, but the psychological impact was immediate. Pumper had gone from senior partner to unemployed defendant in less than a week. But the most satisfying call came from an unexpected source. Is this John Mitchell? The voice was professional, female, unfamiliar. Yes? This is Detective Martinez with the Financial Crimes Unit. I'm calling about Amy Morrison and the credit card fraud case. What about it? Ms. Morrison's attorney has approached us about a plea deal. She's willing to plead guilty to a reduced charge in exchange for full restitution and community service. How much restitution? The full amount plus interest and fees. About $16,000 total. $16,000. More than I'd lost, but less than Amy deserved to pay. What's the reduced charge? Misdemeanor theft instead of felony fraud. She'd avoid prison time but would have a criminal record and would be on probation for 2 years. I thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. No deal. Mr. Mitchell, are you sure? This would guarantee full restitution. Detective, Amy Morrison spent 4 days in Miami spending my money like she was a lottery winner. She posted it all over social media, bragging about her lifestyle. She showed no remorse until she got arrested, and even then, her first instinct was to blame me for her problems. So, you want to proceed with the felony charges? I want her to face the same consequences any other thief would face. That could mean prison time. That could mean justice. After I hung up, I sat in my empty house and looked around at the life I'd built with Kate. 8 years of marriage, of shared dreams and combined efforts, reduced to furniture and memories. But for the first time since this all started, I felt something approaching peace. Not happiness, that would take time, but peace. The peace that comes from knowing you've stood up for yourself, that you've refused to be a victim, that you've made sure the people who wronged you understand the cost of their actions. My phone buzzed with a text from Kate. I heard about Amy's plea deal. Thank you for saying no. I stared at the message for a long time before responding. I didn't do it for you. I know. But thank you anyway. It was the first honest thing she'd said to me in months, but it was also too little, too late. 3 weeks later, I was a different man living in the same house. The silence was the first thing I'd noticed. No Amy chattering on her phone about her latest drama. No Kate clicking around in her heels, getting ready for another late night at the office. Just me, my thoughts, and the sound of my own footsteps on hardwood floors. I'd started sleeping better, eating better, working out harder. The stress lines around my eyes were fading, replaced by something sharper, more focused. Bob noticed it during our morning session at the gym. You look different, he said, watching me work the speed bag with mechanical precision. Different how? Dangerous. He wasn't wrong. 3 weeks of methodical revenge had taught me something about myself that I'd never known before. I was good at it. Really good. The lawsuit against Pumper's former law firm was progressing nicely. My attorney, a sharp woman named Rebecca Torres, had uncovered a pattern of sexual harassment that went back years. The firm was looking at millions in potential damages from multiple victims. They want to settle, Rebecca told me during our weekly meeting. 7 figures. How many figures? Low 7, 1.2 million. I leaned back in my chair, trying to process the number. More money than I'd make in 20 years at my current job. What's the catch? Non-disclosure agreement. You take the money, you never talk about what happened. No. Rebecca raised an eyebrow. John, this is a substantial offer. It's blood money. They want to pay me to shut up so they can go back to business as usual. That's generally how these settlements work? Then we go to trial. That could take years, and there's no guarantee we'll win more than they're offering. It's not about the money anymore. Rebecca studied my face with the same intensity she probably used on hostile witnesses. What is it about? Accountability. That afternoon, I got a call from Detective Martinez. Mr. Mitchell, I have an update on the Amy Morrison case. Let me guess, another plea offer. Actually, no. Ms. Morrison fired her attorney and decided to represent herself. She's demanding a jury trial. That was unexpected and stupid, but also perfect. When? 6 weeks from now. Are you prepared to testify? I've been prepared for 3 weeks. Mr. Mitchell, I should warn you, she's planning to argue that this was a family dispute, not a criminal matter. She's going to claim you gave her permission to use the card. Can she prove that? Can you prove you didn't? I smiled. Detective, I can prove a lot of things. That evening, Kate called for the first time in a week. John, I heard Amy's going to trial. Your sister always was stubborn. She's going to lose. Probably. She could go to prison. Definitely. Kate was quiet for a long moment. Don't you feel bad about that? It was a fair question. Did I feel bad about the possibility that Amy might spend the next few years in a state correctional facility? Did I feel bad that Kate was unemployed and living with her parents? Did I feel bad that Pumper's legal career was over? No, I said. I feel satisfied. That's not the man I married. The man you married was a fool. He trusted people who didn't deserve it, forgave people who didn't earn it, and ignored red flags because he wanted to believe the best about the people he loved. And now? Now he knows better. 2 weeks before Amy's trial, I got an unexpected visitor. I was in the garage, rebuilding the engine on a 1967 Mustang I'd bought as a project, when someone knocked on the side door. I looked up to see Pumper standing in my driveway, looking like he'd aged 10 years in the past month. What do you want? I asked, not bothering to get up. To talk. We talked. At the courthouse, remember? John, please. 5 minutes. I wiped my hands on a rag and stood up. Pumper looked terrible. His expensive suit was wrinkled, his silver hair was unkempt, and there were dark circles under his eyes. "You look like hell," I said. "I feel worse." "Good." Pumper stepped into the garage, looking around at my tools and projects. "Nice setup you have here." "Cut the small talk, Pumper. What do you want?" "I want you to drop the lawsuit." "And why would I do that?" "Because it's destroying innocent people." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Innocent people? Like my marriage, like my trust, like my financial security? I'm talking about the other women at the firm, the ones who had nothing to do with what happened between Kate and me. "The ones you harassed?" Pumper's face flushed. "That's not... Those situations were different." "Were they? Or were they just other married women whose husbands didn't find out?" "You don't understand. I understand perfectly. You're a predator who used his position to manipulate women, and now you're facing consequences for the first time in your life. The firm is talking about bankruptcy. Hundreds of people could lose their jobs. Then maybe they should have been more careful about who they made senior partner." Pumper was quiet for a moment, staring at the concrete floor. "What will it take?" "For what?" "For you to stop. To let this go. To move on with your life." I set down my tools and looked at this man who'd helped destroy my marriage, who'd laughed about my ignorance, who'd thought I was too weak to fight back. "You want to know what it'll take?" "Yes. It'll take you understanding that some things can't be fixed with money or negotiations or plea bargains. Some things, once broken, stay broken. So there's nothing. There's nothing." Pumper nodded slowly, like he'd expected that answer but had hoped for a different one. "For what it's worth," he said. "I'm sorry." "No, you're not. You're desperate. There's a difference." After he left, I went back to work on the Mustang. There was something therapeutic about rebuilding an engine, about taking something broken and making it run again. But some things, I'd learned, were worth more broken than fixed. The night before Amy's trial, I couldn't sleep. Not because I was nervous, I'd been preparing for this moment for weeks, but because I knew that tomorrow would be the end of something. I walked through my empty house, looking at the spaces where Kate's things used to be, remembering the life we'd built together. 8 years of shared dreams, of inside jokes, of quiet Sunday mornings and loud Friday nights. All of it gone because she'd wanted something more exciting than what we had. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "I'm scared." Amy. She'd gotten a new phone after her old one had been confiscated as evidence. I stared at the message for a long time before responding. "You should be. I never meant for any of this to happen." "Yes, you did. You meant to spend my money. You meant to treat me like a servant. You meant to take advantage of my generosity. You just didn't mean to get caught." "Please, John. I'll do anything. You'll do time." I turned off my phone and went to bed. Tomorrow, Amy would learn what accountability looked like. Kate would watch her sister face the consequences of her actions, and I would finally get the justice I'd been working toward for 6 weeks. But more importantly, tomorrow, I would prove to myself that I wasn't the harmless fool they'd thought I was. I was something much more dangerous, a man who'd learned to fight back. The courthouse was packed. I'd expected a small crowd, family, maybe a few friends, the usual collection of court watchers who had nothing better to do. Instead, the gallery was full of people I recognized, neighbors, co-workers, members of Kate's former social circle, even some reporters who'd caught wind of the story. Amy sat at the defendant's table, representing herself, looking small and frightened in a conservative blue dress that probably cost more than most people's monthly salary. She kept glancing back at the gallery, searching for friendly faces. She didn't find many. Kate was there, sitting in the back row with her parents. She looked older than her 32 years, worn down by weeks of unemployment and public humiliation. When our eyes met, she quickly looked away. The prosecutor, a young man named David Chen, approached the witness stand where I'd been sworn in. Mr. Mitchell, can you tell the court about your relationship to the defendant? Amy Morrison is my sister-in-law. She'd been living in my house for approximately 3 months before the incident. And during those 3 months, what was your relationship like? I looked directly at Amy as I answered. She treated me like a servant. She never paid rent, never contributed to household expenses, never helped with chores. She acted like I existed solely to make her life comfortable. Amy's attorney, herself, objected. Your Honor, this is character assassination. Overruled, Judge Patricia Williams said. The witness may continue. On the evening of October 15th, I received a text message from Ms. Morrison while I was working on my truck in the driveway. Can you tell the court what that message said? I pulled out my phone and read directly from the screen. I maxed out your credit card in Miami. You make enough. Smiley face emoji. A murmur went through the gallery. Judge Williams gavelled for quiet. What was your reaction to this message? I was shocked. I had given Ms. Morrison access to my credit card for emergencies only. A 4-day vacation in Miami didn't qualify as an emergency. What did you do next? I checked my credit card account online. Ms. Morrison had spent $14,847 in 4 days. Luxury hotels, expensive restaurants, designer shopping, spa treatments. She had documented the entire spending spree on social media. Chen introduced the social media posts as evidence. Photos of Amy living it up in Miami, bragging about her lifestyle, posting pictures of expensive purchases with captions like, "Living my best life," and "When you deserve the best." Mr. Mitchell, at any point did you give Ms. Morrison permission to spend nearly $15,000 of your money? Absolutely not. Did you give her permission to take a vacation to Miami using your credit card? No. Did you give her permission to spend money on luxury items, spa treatments, or expensive meals? No. Chen turned to Amy. Your witness. Amy stood up slowly, clutching a legal pad covered with handwritten notes. She was shaking. John, she said, you gave me the credit card. For emergencies, I interrupted, but you never specified what constituted an emergency. Ms. Morrison, Judge Williams said, you need to ask questions, not make statements. Amy nodded nervously. Didn't you tell me I could use the card whenever I needed to? No. I told you it was for emergencies. Kate was present when I said that. Amy glanced back at her sister, who was staring at her hands. But you never took the card back. Because I trusted you not to abuse that trust. You make good money. Objection, Chen said, not a question. Sustained. Amy was falling apart. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely read her notes. Don't you think $14,000 is a reasonable amount for a family member to spend? No. I think $14,000 is grand theft. The cross-examination continued for another 20 minutes, with Amy desperately trying to establish that she'd had some kind of permission to spend my money. But every answer I gave made her look worse. When it was over, Chen called his next witness, Detective Martinez. Detective, what did you find when you investigated Ms. Morrison's social media accounts? She had documented the entire trip extensively. Photos of luxury accommodations, expensive meals, designer purchases. She also posted several messages indicating she knew she was spending someone else's money and didn't care. Chen introduced more evidence, screenshots of Amy's posts, including one where she'd written, "My brother-in-law is paying for this trip and he doesn't even know it yet. LOL. Another post showed her at an expensive restaurant with the caption, "When someone else is picking up the tab, order the lobster." The most damaging post was from her last day in Miami. 4 days of living like a queen on someone else's dime. Some people are just too trusting. By the time Detective Martinez finished testifying, Amy looked like she wanted to disappear into the floor. The prosecution rested. Amy's defense consisted of calling herself to the witness stand and trying to explain her actions. It went exactly as well as you'd expect. "I never meant to hurt anyone," she said, crying. "I thought John wouldn't mind. He has a good job, and Kate said he was generous." "Objection," Chen said. "Hearsay. Sustained. I was going through a difficult time. My boyfriend had just broken up with me. I'd lost my job." "Ms. Morrison," Judge Williams said, "are you claiming financial hardship as a defense?" "I'm saying I wasn't thinking clearly." "Were you thinking clearly enough to document your spending spree on social media?" Amy didn't have an answer for that. The jury deliberated for less than an hour. Guilty on all counts. Amy collapsed into her chair, sobbing. Kate ran from the courtroom. The gallery erupted in whispers and murmurs. Judge Williams scheduled sentencing for the following week. Outside the courthouse, I was surrounded by reporters. "Mr. Mitchell, how do you feel about the verdict?" "I feel like justice was served." "Do you think your sister-in-law deserves prison time?" "I think she deserves the same consequences anyone else would face for stealing $15,000. "What about your wife? Are you getting divorced?" I looked directly into the camera. "My wife made her choices. Now she's living with the consequences." "Any regrets about how you handled this situation?" "My only regret is that it took me so long to stand up for myself." That evening, Kate called. "Are you happy now?" she asked. "I'm satisfied." Amy's looking at 3 to 5 years in prison. She's looking at the consequences of her actions. She's my sister. She was my sister-in-law, past tense. Kate was quiet for a long moment. "What happens to us?" "There is no us, Kate. There hasn't been for months. I love you." "No, you don't. You love the idea of me. You love having someone to fall back on when your other plans don't work out. But you don't love me." "That's not true." "It's completely true. If you loved me, you wouldn't have spent 6 months laughing about me with your boss. If you loved me, you wouldn't have let your sister steal from me while you were too busy cheating to notice." "I made mistakes. You made choices. And now you're living with them." A week later, Amy was sentenced to 4 years in state prison. She'd serve at least 2 years before being eligible for parole. Pumper's former law firm settled the sexual harassment lawsuit for $2.3 million. I donated half of it to a domestic violence shelter and used the rest to buy a house in a different part of town. Kate filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences. I didn't contest it. 6 months after that text message in my driveway, I was a single man with a new house, a healthy bank account, and a reputation as someone you didn't want to cross. But more importantly, I was someone who'd learned to stand up for himself. The morning after the divorce was finalized, I was working in my new garage when my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "I hope you're happy. You destroyed my family." Kate, texting from yet another new phone. I typed back, "I didn't destroy your family. You did. I just made sure everyone knew about it. You're a vindictive bastard." I'm a man who learned not to be a victim. I put the phone away and went back to work on my latest project, a 1969 Camaro SS that I'd bought with settlement money. Some things, once broken, stay broken. But some things can be rebuilt into something better than they were before. I was living proof of that. 3 months later, I ran into Bob at the grocery store. He looked at me with those sharp gray eyes and smiled. "You look good, Johnny. Different, but good." "Different how?" "Like a man who knows who he is." He was right. The fool who'd trusted blindly, who'd ignored red flags, who'd let people walk all over him. That man was gone. In his place was someone harder, smarter, more dangerous. Someone who understood that respect isn't given, it's earned. And sometimes, it's taken. That night, I sat on the deck of my new house, looking out at a view that was entirely mine, paid for with money I'd earned by refusing to be a victim. My phone was quiet. My house was peaceful. My life was exactly what I'd made it. And for the first time in years, That was exactly enough.